Welcome back to Wages and Employment at Wilfrid Laurier University. In our last video, we introduced some of Canada's income maintenance programs. Today, we're going to look at how demogrants might alter work decisions. For reference, you should pair this video with readings in Chapter 3 of your textbook, and there's some extra references here for anyone who is interested in learning a bit more. Now, demogrant is one of those words not commonly used outside of economics and policy discussions. So it's worth taking a moment to define what we have in mind here. A demogrant is a lump sum transfer of income from the government to an individual or a family. Lump sum means you get the lump of cash regardless of your income. The demo part of demogrant refers to the fact that we typically offer a lump sum of cash to a specific demographic group, not just everyone. So for example, we might offer to anyone who is over the age of 65 or any families with kids. But there's a few examples of pure demogrants that truly do not depend on your income. For example, from 2006 to 2016, Canadian families with children received the Universal Child Care Benefit. When it was first introduced in 2006, the program sent $100 checks to every family with a child under the age of 6. Everyone was sent the check, but it was taxable. So not, on an after-tax basis, some families would have already received slightly more than others. We also offer old age security checks to everyone over the age of 65 who meets residency requirements, but the benefit is clawed back or reduced if seniors have high incomes. In 2020, a senior with individual taxable income over $77,580 would have benefits reduced and completely lose their benefits if income is just over $126,000 per year. Only about 10% of seniors have income high enough to face any clawback, so we tend to think of this as a demogrant. Across Canada, you can find a few examples of lump sum transfers that were one-offs, such as Alberta's prosperity bonuses sent out in 2005, whereby every Albertan received a check for $400. These are interesting, but since it isn't part of an ongoing income maintenance program, we aren't as interested in working through the effects on labor supply. So let's return to our basic model of labor supply and see how a demogrant fits in. We'll start here, where a person is offered the wage W1 in the market and receives a non-labor income YN1. In this scenario, the person chooses L1 hours of leisure and H1 hours work, with point A representing their optimal choice. Now suppose the person is offered a demogrant in the amount of YD. This shifts up their entire potential income constraint by the amount YD. So for example, if the person does not work at all, they can have a higher income available. And if they work every hour of their day, their potential income constraint is increased by the same amount. But notice it doesn't change the slope. So we know there's a pure income effect at play here and no substitution effects associated with changing the price of leisure. As such, we expect the person to take on more leisure time and more consumption and work less as a result. In the extreme, the person might opt to leave the labor force entirely. So this is theory so far. What does the evidence say? There aren't a lot of examples out there to examine the causal effect of a demogrant, but we did get to look at the introduction of the Universal Child Care Benefit. As we said before, this had nothing to do with the use of daycares. Rather, it was a simple cash transfer to any families with children under the age of 6. Every month, primary caregivers of children, which by default was moms, were sent $100 per child under the age of 6. From our models, we would expect that to alter the labor supply decisions in these households. This is from the 2016 paper. The height of each bar represents the average hours worked for each group of moms considered. Consider the first set of bars for women who were legally married. When we look at the moms with kids between ages 0 to 5, they worked on average 16.9 hours before the UCCB was introduced, and 16.8 hours after the UCCB was introduced. This on its own is a small, even negligible change. But there's many other things going on in the world. So like any experiment, we need a control group. Here, we look at those moms with older kids, aged 6 to 17, and their average hours increased by 1.5 hours. So we say that the work of married moms getting the benefit were more than half hour less per week than they would have been otherwise. Here, it's basically the same idea, but looking at employment rates. The employment rates of moms with the youngest kids didn't change after the UCCB was introduced. But the employment rates of moms with older kids did increase. So we expect it was the UCCB that prevented the employment of married moms with young kids from increasing as well. But notice, this didn't have the same effect for all moms. Divorced moms were the most different. They didn't use the extra money to take on more leisure time. They actually went to work more. Those receiving the UCCB actually increased their employment rates by 3 percentage points. Divorced moms who didn't get the benefits, their employment rates increased by 1 point. So overall, we would say the UCCB increased the employment rates of divorced moms by 2 percentage points. Overall, we expect demogrants to have these income effects that would lead to people taking time away from work. But an important result from this literature is that people aren't that predictable, and other factors might play a larger role. In our next video, we will continue with income maintenance programs and consider how the design of welfare programs, also known as social assistance, may affect labor supply as well.